Imagine standing at the highest terraces of Machu Picchu just before dawn, when the mist clings to the stones like a living veil and the mountain seems to breathe beneath your feet. Now imagine knowing that under those stones, under those terraces, under centuries of silence and secrecy, machines, yes, machines, may be sleeping. Ground-penetrating radar conducted by researchers has revealed something that should not exist beneath an ancient citadel built by a civilization without metal tools, engines, or industrial machinery. The scans show metallic reflections forming shapes too precise, too geometric, too intentional to be dismissed as natural ore veins or random mineral clusters. These reflections come back with sharp angles, clean lines, and rectangular forms that the mountain itself would never create. Something beneath the citadel is shaped, assembled, and arranged, and whatever it has been sealed off for a reason. When radar waves were fired into the bedrock below the main temple complex, the returning signatures behaved strangely. Instead of scattering the way they should when bouncing off uneven stone, they returned in rhythmic pulses, almost like the signal you'd get from a layered metallic surface, thin, stacked, evenly spaced. These are the kinds of echoes engineers see in aerospace materials, in reinforced plating, or in machine housings, and yet here they are, beneath one of the oldest spiritual sanctuaries in the Andes. The Inca were master builders, astronomers, and agricultural scientists, but they were not known for forging metal into complex geometric structures hidden deep beneath sacred temples. So the question becomes, if the Inca didn't place these forms underground, who did? And why did the Inca go to such lengths to build the entire citadel directly above them? Imagine being one of the first radar technicians reviewing the raw data. At first, the signals look like noise, bright bursts of color, interference patterns, the usual distortions caused by dense stone. But as the layers are processed, a pattern begins to emerge. You see a grid, faint but undeniable. You see a long, rectangular cavity encased in something reflective. You see a series of parallel lines that suggest a corridor or conduit, and then you notice a circular imprint, perfectly symmetrical, about 2 meters across, surrounded by a halo of metallic scatter. This is not a natural formation. This is not a cave. This is not a mineral pocket. This is something designed. The metallic readings are especially troubling because they appear in a region entirely closed off, unreachable from any known passage within the citadel. There is no collapsed tunnel, no hidden staircase, no sealed doorway that connects the upper city to this chamber. It is as if the structure below predates Machu Picchu, or worse, as if it was never meant to be accessed by those living above it. Archaeologists examining the data describe the objects as geometric anomalies. Engineers who were consulted described them as fabricated. Some quietly suggested machines, and a few, unwilling to go on record, whispered that the shapes don't look like anything from pre-Columbian metallurgy. They look futuristic. What makes the situation even more mysterious is the placement. The metallic shapes lie directly under the Temple of the Sun, one of the most sacred structures in the entire Inca Empire. This was the place where the high priests observed the solstice, where offerings were made to Inti, the sun deity, and where the most important rituals of state and cosmology took place. The Inca believed that the sun's power flowed through this temple into the earth, into the stone, into the people. So why would metallic objects alien to their worldview, exist beneath it? Did the Inca choose this location because they sensed something powerful below, something that radiated energy or vibration? Or did they build over it to contain something they feared? Some historians point to the Inca concept of huacas, sacred points where energy from the earth or the heavens was believed to concentrate. Many huacas were natural stones, springs, mountains, or caves, but a few were described as places where the earth sang or the ground glowed. Could the metallic shapes be the source of such legends? Could ancient priests have felt a hum, a vibration, an electromagnetic pulse long before the language to describe such phenomena existed? Even more unsettling are the legends recorded by early chroniclers who spoke with Inca elders. One story tells of a forbidden chamber beneath a sacred sanctuary where the metal that was not made by men rested. Another speaks of machines of the sky gods buried in the mountain so that humanity would not misuse them. Most scholars treat these stories as mythic symbolism, metaphors for power, knowledge, or celestial authority. But the radar signatures beneath Machu Picchu suddenly make those metaphors feel disturbingly literal. Picture a sealed metallic chamber lying in darkness for centuries. No air, no movement, no decay, just the silence of a mountain pressing down from above. If the objects inside were indeed machines, what were they designed to do? Were they engines, containers, instruments, power sources? Were they abandoned technology from an unknown culture that came before the Inca? Or were they placed there intentionally by the Inca themselves, perhaps gifted or recovered from something that fell from the sky? Some researchers propose that what lies beneath Machu Picchu could be a kind of ancient vault, an archive, a generator, or a stabilization device meant to regulate something in the mountain. They point out that many ancient civilizations built their sacred sites above areas of geological or electromagnetic intensity. Machu Picchu sits at the meeting point of two major fault lines, where the magnetic field is unusually strong. Could the metallic structures be interacting with these forces? Could they be amplifying, storing, or redirecting energy? The ground-penetrating radar can only tell us so much. It shows the shapes, their density, their boundaries, but not their purpose. It shows the metallic signatures, but not the alloy. It shows the outlines, but not the story behind them. And until someone opens the chamber, the truth will remain speculation. But here is the strange part. Every attempt to explore or excavate the region has been denied. Every proposal to drill a small access shaft has been blocked by cultural authorities. International teams have offered advanced, minimally invasive technology, but the answer is always the same. No, the chambers must remain sealed, which forces us to ask, who is protecting these chambers? Is it simply archaeological caution? Is it spiritual respect? Or is it fear? Fear of what lies inside, fear of disrupting something that should remain untouched, fear of awakening something that has been sleeping far longer than our history books admit. When you look at the radar images, you feel something instinctive, primal, an unease that comes from seeing order where nature should be chaotic. The mountain is alive, ancient, wild, but beneath it something cold and symmetrical waits, like ribs of a forgotten machine. And as the debate continues, the metallic shapes remain silent, sealed, and undisturbed. But they are there, and the longer they remain hidden, the louder the question becomes, were the Inca protecting the chambers, or were the chambers protecting us? But the mystery deepens when you consider how the radar behaved at the deepest layers. Normally, as waves penetrate further into the ground, they lose strength, scattering into static. But here, at the depth where the metallic shapes lie, the signal did something impossible. It strengthened. It rebounded with more clarity, more coherence, as if the chamber itself enhanced the return. This has led some theorists to wonder whether the structure below isn't merely metallic, it might be resonant, it might be engineered to interact with electromagnetic waves. It might even still be powered in ways we cannot detect with conventional instruments. Imagine an object capable of sustaining an energy field for centuries long after its creators vanished. Imagine a chamber designed to preserve something fragile, dangerous, or sacred. The Inca would not have understood such technology, but they would have felt its presence. They would have recognized the mountain as alive with an unfamiliar pulse. They might have built Machu Picchu as a guardian city, a sanctuary not just for themselves, but for whatever rested below. This would explain why the citadel is situated in an almost impossible location, perched on a ridge accessible only by narrow trails. It was not built for convenience. It was built for protection. Some archaeologists have quietly noted that the layout of Machu Picchu mirrors the shape and orientation of the anomalies detected below. The Temple of the Sun sits directly above the largest metallic formation. The room of the three windows aligns with another reflective corridor-like anomaly. It's as if the city was designed as a map of what lies underground, a protective shell above a hidden core. If true, Machu Picchu might be less a royal estate and more a monumental lock, an architectural seal created to keep something contained. And yet, the more we learn, the less we understand. Why would a civilization that crafted sacred temples from perfectly fitted granite choose to hide metallic forms beneath the surface? Why hide them so carefully that even modern tools struggle to find them? Why ensure there is no visible entrance, no record, no explanation? Unless the knowledge of what lay below was restricted to a select few, the high priests, the emperor, perhaps only the most trusted guardians. And when the empire fell, that knowledge died with them. There is a final, haunting possibility. Perhaps the Inca themselves stumbled upon something ancient, something left behind by a civilization far older than recorded history, something that radiated power, mystery, or danger, something they chose to bury beneath their most sacred sanctuary to honor or contain it. If that is true, then the metallic shapes are not Inca at all. They are remnants of a forgotten chapter of human history, or perhaps even a chapter that predates humanity entirely. The mountain keeps its secrets well, the chambers remain sealed, and the metallic shapes lie in darkness, waiting for the day someone finally uncovers the truth, or the day the world decides that some mysteries are better left buried beneath stone, silence, and time. Imagine standing before the megalithic terraces of Machu Picchu, running your hand across granite blocks so precisely carved that even a razor blade cannot slip between them, and realizing that this is only the surface layer of a much deeper enigma. When archaeologists began comparing the visible Inca stonework with the structures hinted at beneath the citadel, one truth became impossible to ignore. Whatever lies underground appears to be engineered with a sophistication that does not match the known technological abilities of the Inca Empire. The Inca were extraordinary builders, visionaries of architecture and astronomical alignment, but the engineering signatures detected beneath Machu Picchu belong to a different scale entirely, too advanced, too calculated, too immaculate to be explained by the tools and methods attributed to a civilization that worked with stone, rope, wood, and copper alloys. The radar scans do not simply reveal chambers, they reveal engineering thought patterns far ahead of their time. One of the first anomalies researchers noticed was the geometric regularity beneath the mountain. Nature does not create corridors with parallel walls, nor does it carve chambers with 90-degree corners or cylindrical voids with uniform diameters. Yet these features consistently appeared in the radar data. Some sections even reflected patterns that resembled layered shielding, alternating densities stacked with mathematical precision. Engineers familiar with modern vibration control systems noted eerie similarities between the underground signatures and the designs used in aerospace foundations to distribute stress, absorb seismic activity, and stabilize sensitive equipment. But how could such engineering exist centuries before modern metallurgy? How could a civilization without iron tools carve chambers into a mountain with accuracy measured not in centimeters, but in millimeters? The more researchers reviewed the data, the deeper the mystery became. Granitic rock requires specialized drills, diamond-tipped equipment, or intense industrial processes to shape. Yet the chambers below Machu Picchu appear to have been carved so cleanly that even the internal surfaces show reflections consistent with polished stone or plated material. No chisel marks, no rough chiseling, no evidence of progressive excavation. It is as if the mountain itself had been softened, molded, or shaped by energy rather than brute force. Some fringe theorists claim that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of acoustic resonance, heat manipulation, or vibrational engineering that allowed them to modify stone at a molecular level. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss these ideas, yet the underground structures stubbornly refuse to align with conventional explanations. What makes the situation even more unsettling is how the chambers integrate with the mountain's natural geology. Instead of fighting against the grain of the rock, the structures seem to harmonize with it, following fault lines, reinforcing natural pillars, and using the Earth's internal architecture as if the builders possessed a geological map far more advanced than anything the Inca are believed to have had. It is as though whoever engineered the chambers was not merely constructing spaces but weaving the structure into the mountain's internal skeleton, blending natural and artificial elements into a unified design. This level of geological understanding typically requires satellite imaging, seismic modeling, and advanced material analysis. Yet the creators of these chambers clearly operated with knowledge that allowed them to shape the Earth without destabilizing it. The Inca, for all their brilliance, did not possess written engineering manuals, metal drilling apparatus, or even wheel-based machinery to transport stone. Their mastery was born from wisdom, mathematics, and tradition. But the chambers beneath Machu Picchu imply something beyond tradition, something approaching industrial era or even futuristic design. Some of the underground features resemble ventilation shafts, not random voids. Others appear to be structural buttresses. Several cavities even give off radar reflections that mimic hollow metallic containers or reinforced alloy surfaces. When metallurgists examined the density readings, they concluded that if metal does exist underground, it is not bronze, copper, or silver, the metals the Inca worked with. It is something denser, harder, engineered. Even more perplexing are the magnetic anomalies detected around the citadel. Compasses behave erratically near certain points, and localized magnetic fields pulse stronger beneath areas where the radar detected geometric structures. This suggests the possibility of ferrous materials or even engineered alloys capable of retaining magnetization over centuries. But such materials would require smelting temperatures and metallurgical expertise that did not exist in the Andes during the Inca era. If the chambers contain metallic components, those metals were either imported from an unknown culture or produced by a technology far beyond anything historians have attributed to pre-Columbian civilizations. Some researchers privately entertain an even more radical theory that the underground structures were designed using mathematical principles not formally documented until the modern era. Ratios consistent with advanced acoustics, geometric harmonics, and structural resonance appear in the dimensional estimates produced from the radar data. These patterns mirror those used in modern architectural acoustics to create echo-free chambers or to amplify specific frequencies. Why would such techniques exist beneath a mountain in the 1400s? And more importantly, what purpose would such chambers serve? Legends from the region describe tunnels where the earth vibrated like a drum, and chambers where the stones carried the voice of the gods. At the time, such descriptions were dismissed as poetic metaphors. But the underground radar signatures suggest that vibrational engineering might actually have been involved. Certain chamber widths correspond to resonance frequencies that could amplify sound, energy, or even seismic waves. If true, this would imply an understanding of physics that challenges everything we know about ancient technology in South America. One of the most alarming findings involves the structural positioning of the chambers. They sit precisely at nodes where tectonic stresses converge, as if designed to stabilize or manipulate geological forces. This raises a chilling possibility. What if the chambers are not simply rooms or storage vaults? What if they are part of a stabilization system, an ancient mechanism meant to dampen earthquakes or modify the mountain's natural frequency? Modern engineers create similar systems using shock absorbers, steel reinforcement, and energy-dissipating frames. Yet, the underground grid beneath Machu Picchu appears to mimic such concepts without using any material or technique known to the Inca. Some historians suggest the Inca discovered these chambers rather than created them. When they found advanced structures beneath the mountain, perhaps they recognized their power and built Machu Picchu above them to mark, protect, or honor what they believed to be sacred or dangerous. If this is true, then the Inca were not the engineers. They were the guardians. This would explain why the most sacred temples align directly with the anomalies below. It would also explain why no records, no oral history, and no surviving myth fully describes the engineering beneath the citadel. Perhaps that knowledge existed only in whispers among the highest priests, whispers that vanished when the empire collapsed. But the deepest mystery remains this: why do modern authorities refuse excavation? Why do they consistently deny requests to probe deeper, to drill, to sample, to verify? Some claim preservation. Others claim cultural respect. But a growing number of researchers suspect something else: fear. Fear that the engineering beneath Machu Picchu might force history to be rewritten. Fear that the chambers contain materials or mechanisms that defy archaeological classification. Fear that opening them might trigger geological consequences no one fully understands. Whatever the truth is, one fact stands firm: the engineering signatures beneath Machu Picchu do not belong to a civilization limited by stone tools and human strength. They hint at a forgotten chapter of human capability, or at a culture whose technological sophistication rivals or even surpasses our own. And so, the enigma persists, growing heavier with every attempt to silence it. If the chambers do contain technology, were they abandoned intentionally? Were they deactivated? Or are they still functioning quietly in the dark, carrying out a purpose we no longer recognize? Some locals claim the mountain hums at night, a low vibration felt more in the bones than heard with the ears. Others insist that animals avoid certain areas instinctively, as if reacting to electromagnetic fields or subtle energy patterns. Perhaps the builders understood forces we are only beginning to measure. Perhaps the chambers are not relics, but instruments, calibrated to the pulse of the earth itself. Until the day the seal is broken, all we can do is wonder whether we stand above a sleeping marvel or a warning left behind by minds far more advanced than our own. If these structures were ever activated again, would they stabilize the mountain or unleash energies we cannot control? Would they reveal a lost science or expose a danger the Inca sought to bury forever? The unanswered questions echo louder than the mountain winds, reminding us that some engineering is so advanced it becomes indistinguishable from magic, and some mysteries so profound that even time hesitates to reveal them. In the high Andes, where clouds drift like ancient spirits and the wind carries whispers older than any empire, there lives a legend that the locals tell only in low voices. They say that beneath Machu Picchu, beneath the terraces and temples and stairways carved into the spine of the mountain, something sleeps. Not a creature of flesh, not a ghost of the dead, something older, something the villagers call the sleeping gods beneath the mountain. These gods, they say, do not watch humanity with warmth or wrath, but with indifference, the way a storm watches the sea. They exist in a state between life and death, a state of waiting, and the mountain is their cradle. According to the elders, long before the Inca rose to power, long before the first stone was laid, the mountain pulsed with a strange heartbeat, a rhythm felt through the soles of the feet, as though something vast and mechanical rested deep inside the earth. At night, when the sky darkens and the cold settles over the valley, the villagers claim you can hear faint tremors, like a faraway rumbling. They say it is the gods shifting in their long slumber. The mountain, they insist, is not silent. It is breathing. And the chambers beneath Machu Picchu, the ones sealed, forbidden, untouched, were not built to imprison treasure or protect royal remains. They were built to contain the gods themselves, to bind their power, to keep them dormant until humanity is ready or until the cycle of ages demands their awakening. The local legends paint a picture of these gods not as deities of faith, but as beings of immense power, entities connected to the earth's energy, the magnetic fields, and the pulse of creation itself. One legend tells of a shepherd who once wandered too close to a forbidden cave at the base of the mountain. He heard a humming sound, like metal vibrating under immense pressure. Curious, he approached, but before he could enter, the ground beneath him shook violently. Stones tumbled, the air grew hot, and a deep voice, not in words but in sensation, filled his chest. He fled, and when he returned home trembling, he said the mountain had spoken to him. The elders nodded quietly, for they knew what he had felt. The gods dream, they said, and when you step too close, they sense you. Such stories are spoken not with theatrics, but with a solemnity that suggests belief, not superstition. Another tale describes a priest from ancient times who ventured into the lower tunnels to commune with the gods. He returned blind, shaken, unable to speak for days. When he finally recovered, he described luminous shapes moving in the darkness, geometric beings of light and metal shifting like machinery powered by thought. He said they were not alive in the way humans understand life, but they were conscious. They existed in a state of deep energy, bound within chambers that glowed with a light brighter than fire. The priest insisted that the Inca built their temples above these chambers not to honor the gods but to restrain them, to keep them from rising and reshaping the world. His warnings were recorded not in ink but in the oral tradition, passed through generations like a fragile thread of truth. The most haunting of all legends speaks of an era long before the Inca, when a great catastrophe struck the region. The sky darkened for days, lightning cracked across the mountains, and the earth shook violently. The villagers believed the gods beneath the mountain had stirred in anger. Only when a group of ancient shamans performed rituals now forgotten, did the tremors cease. According to the legend, the shamans did not appease the gods. They lulled them back into slumber. The rituals acted as a seal, binding the gods deeper into the earth. Machu Picchu, according to this telling, was built as the final lock, a stone labyrinth positioned precisely to suppress the energies below. The temples, the terraces, the alignment with the stars, all of it was part of a containment system, misunderstood by modern historians, but perfectly understood by those who once lived in harmony with forces far beyond human perception. The legends also speak of glowing symbols etched into the inner walls of the forbidden chambers, symbols that pulsed like heartbeats. These symbols, it is said, were the language of the gods, not written in words or sounds, but in frequencies and patterns. The elders claim that those who can feel the mountain's hum are hearing the remnants of that language vibrating through the stone. When asked what the symbols mean, the elders give the same chilling answer: a warning. They refuse to elaborate, only insisting that the gods beneath the mountain must not be awakened, for their rise would signal the beginning of an age humanity is not prepared to endure. Some versions of the legend are even more unsettling. They suggest that the gods are not sleeping willingly. They were sealed away after a great conflict, a struggle between beings of immense power that once shaped the mountains themselves. The gods beneath Machu Picchu were not defeated. They were contained. The chambers are not tombs, but prisons. The Inca, according to these ancient stories, discovered remnants of this earlier civilization and realized the danger hidden beneath the earth. They protected the mountain not for themselves, but for the world. The forbidden chambers were never meant to be opened again. The seal was meant to last forever. Modern scholars brush aside these stories as mythology, allegory, symbolic remnants of cultural memory. But when ground-penetrating radar picks up geometric metallic structures beneath the citadel, structures that resemble machines more than chambers, the legends begin to feel less like fantasy and more like encoded warnings from a forgotten past. It becomes difficult to dismiss the idea that the Inca were aware of something extraordinary buried beneath their sacred sanctuary, something they feared deeply yet respected profoundly. Some villagers claim that during earthquakes, they hear not just the rumbling of shifting stone, but a low, resonant tone, like a chorus rising from beneath the mountain. They say the gods are restless during these moments, testing the strength of the seal. Others claim that strange lights appear on the slopes at night, pulsing orbs of blue or white that drift above the ground, hovering briefly before vanishing. These lights, they say, are the breath of the sleeping gods escaping through cracks in the stone. There are also tales of people who vanished while searching for hidden tunnels, explorers, treasure hunters, even archaeologists who went too deep. The villagers say they were taken by the gods, absorbed into their dreams. Whether literal or symbolic, the stories serve a clear purpose, warning outsiders that the mountain is not a playground for curiosity. It is a living entity guarding beings whose awakening would alter the world. Perhaps the most chilling story is the prophecy whispered by the elders. When the mountain splits and the sky dims, the gods will rise again. They believe the seal will not last forever. When humanity reaches an age where its technology matches the ancient power beneath the earth, the gods will no longer sleep. They will awaken, reclaiming the world they once shaped. For now, the chambers remain sealed, the mountain hums softly in its ancient rhythm, and the villagers continue their traditions, guarding secrets older than history. Whether the sleeping gods are mythical beings, forgotten technology, or something beyond human comprehension, one truth remains unshaken. Machu Picchu is more than a citadel. It is a threshold between worlds, a guardian standing watch over something immense, powerful, and infinitely mysterious, waiting in the dark beneath the stone. But legends, especially those that endure across centuries, do not survive because they entertain. They survive because they encode truths too dangerous or too sacred to express plainly. The people of the Andes have lived alongside these myths, not with the distance of fables, but with the intimacy of inherited memory. Elders say the mountain itself responds to emotional states, growing quiet during times of peace, trembling with subtle agitation when conflict brews among the people. They believe the gods beneath are sensitive to the vibrations of human energy, as though they feed on the collective state of humanity above them. When wars ravaged the region, when the empire rose and fell, when strangers marched into the valleys with weapons and diseases, the mountain shook more violently, as though the gods stirred in sympathy or warning. According to one account, during the Spanish conquest, a group of villagers fled into the mountains seeking refuge. They hid near the forbidden caves, desperate and terrified. Through the night, they heard a humming so loud it drowned out their own heartbeats. The ground beneath them glowed faintly, as if veins of light pulsed beneath the stone. Some claimed they saw shadows, massive shapes turning beneath the mountain, like colossal beings shifting in uneasy sleep. The villagers believed the gods were awakening to defend the land, but the shamans intervened, chanting ancient words passed down from the priests of a forgotten age. Slowly the humming faded, the glow vanished, and the mountain fell silent once more. In yet another story, a young boy disappeared near a fissure at the base of the ridge. His family mourned him for days until he reappeared, pale, trembling, unable to speak. When he eventually regained his voice, he described a tunnel lit by walls that shimmered like metal. He said he saw giants made of light, standing motionless, as though frozen in time. He heard a voice without sound say, "Not yet." The elders believed the boy had stumbled into one of the lower chambers, ones that were never meant for human eyes. They claimed the gods returned him as a warning, not a blessing. These legends might be dismissed easily, if not for the strange physical phenomena that accompany them. Compasses malfunction near certain slopes. Animals avoid specific areas. Plants grow in spirals rather than natural formations, as though influenced by an unseen energy source beneath the soil. Hikers sometimes report vibrations underfoot, even when the ground is still. And during rare nights, especially those aligned with certain astronomical events, the mountain emits a faint but detectable electromagnetic pulse. Scientists attribute these effects to geological anomalies, magnetic minerals, or seismic tension. But to the locals, the explanation is simpler. The gods beneath are stirring. The most enigmatic version of the legend claims the gods are not divine beings at all, but remnants of an ancient race, creatures or machines created long before human history, dormant guardians placed in the earth to protect something or to maintain the balance of the world. Their sleep is not rest, but containment. Their dreams are not visions, but calculations. Some villagers say these gods are listening, measuring humanity's progression, waiting for the moment when we reach a threshold of understanding, whether for unity or destruction. The Inca, in this telling, were not the builders, but the inheritors. They found the ancient chambers, recognized their power, and built Machu Picchu directly above them as the final seal. This creates a haunting implication. If the chambers below Machu Picchu were ever opened, it might not simply reveal archaeological wonders. It might break the seal placed upon the sleeping gods. And the legend suggests that their awakening would not be a gentle return, but a monumental shift, a rewriting of the world's foundations. The villagers say the gods do not wake quickly. They rise like mountains, slow and inevitable. First comes the trembling of the earth, then the humming, resonant enough to make bones vibrate, then the lights beneath the stone, and finally, the opening of the forbidden chambers, not by human hands, but by the will of the gods themselves. Every generation watches the mountain for signs. Every tremor is a whisper. Every flicker of unexplained light is an omen. And as modern technology probes deeper, sending radar waves, measuring magnetic fields, analyzing anomalies, the elders grow uneasy. They say humanity's curiosity is knocking too loudly on a door that was meant to stay closed. For centuries, the people of the Andes have lived as guardians, not explorers. They know the price of awakening something older than civilization itself. They know the difference between myth and warning. And in their voices, when they speak of the sleeping gods beneath the mountain, there is no trace of fantasy, only the weight of truth passed down through the ages. The mountain hides many secrets, but this may be the most profound, that something unimaginably ancient and powerful lies beneath Machu Picchu. Not dead, not alive, but dreaming, waiting, listening, and perhaps one day rising. They never announce the cancellations publicly. They never issue detailed reports. They never explain why teams that trained for months, secured funding, and transported equipment across continents suddenly abandon their missions just days, or sometimes hours, before beginning their descent into the restricted zones of Machu Picchu. Yet everyone involved knows one truth. Expeditions do not stop because of weather, logistics, or bureaucratic delays. They stop because the mountain speaks, and the people brave enough to listen understand that something beneath the citadel does not want to be disturbed. The first cancellation was dismissed as coincidence. A research team preparing to map the deeper geological layers beneath Machu Picchu abruptly halted their work when their equipment malfunctioned. Not the usual kind of malfunction. These devices behaved as if they were in the presence of a powerful electromagnetic field. Batteries that were fully charged dropped to zero in seconds. Drones refused to stabilize, spinning uncontrollably before crashing. GPS systems lost all connection, not to satellites, but to reality itself, glitching into impossible coordinates that suggested the team was thousands of miles away, or sometimes directly underground within the mountain. Even the simplest compasses spun without direction. The scientists left quietly, shaken, but unwilling to say more. They filed their departure as a technical retreat. But those who were there said the air was charged, the ground subtly vibrating beneath their boots, like the heartbeat of something awakening. Months later, a second team arrived with stronger instruments, shielded, reinforced, tested against high electromagnetic environments. They lasted longer, but not much. At precisely 2:17 a.m., every instrument in their camp registered a simultaneous surge. Seismographs recorded a tremor that didn't match any tectonic pattern. Radiation monitors spiked into dangerous levels for less than a second before going silent. Magnetometers detected a burst of energy identical to a solar flare, yet the sky above was clear and calm. The researchers reported hearing a low, resonant hum rising from the ground, not loud enough to be sound, but strong enough to be felt in their bones. Some described it as a deep vibration. Others said it felt like a voice that spoke without words. When dawn came, the team left. No explanations, no samples, only silence. By the third cancellation, whispers began to spread. Local guides refused to accompany scientific teams past certain markers, claiming the mountain was disturbed or breathing heavily. One guide warned a geophysicist that the chambers below were restless, that their dreaming had turned into stirring. The scientist laughed politely, but hours later, spectral lights began appearing across the ridge, thin beams of blue and white drifting through the fog, forming geometric shapes that lingered briefly before vanishing. Cameras captured nothing. Night vision devices failed. But every witness swore the lights were real, moving with an intelligence that felt neither natural nor man-made. The next morning, the expedition was canceled. The strangest anomalies occurred during the fourth attempt. Led by a multinational team determined to penetrate the Forbidden Zone using ground-based drills and high-frequency imaging. Before they could even set up their equipment, the mountain released an energy pulse so strong it shut down communication towers miles away. Villagers reported flickering lights, disrupted radio broadcasts, and animals behaving erratically. Dogs howling at invisible threats, birds abandoning their nesting sites, llamas refusing to ascend the steps toward the citadel. Some visitors experienced dizziness and nausea, others sudden visions or intense déjà vu, as if the mountain were projecting images not into their eyes, but into their minds. Several researchers claimed to see shadows moving beneath the stone terraces, like silhouettes drifting inside the mountain itself. One geologist described the sensation of standing atop a living organism, a massive ancient being whose slow awakening threatened to shake the world. His voice trembled when he said the pulse felt like the exhale of something enormous. Hours later, he resigned. Energy readings from that night were erased from the central database, not corrupted, deleted. When questioned, officials denied the event ever occurred, but multiple eyewitnesses insisted that the mountain had reacted directly to the scientific intrusion, as though something beneath Machu Picchu recognized their presence and responded. The fifth cancellation crossed the line between science and myth entirely. A team of engineers installed new seismic monitors, capable of detecting micro-vibrations as weak as the shifting of a leaf. What they recorded defied their understanding of geology. Instead of random seismic noise, the vibrations formed patterns, rhythmic sequences repeating over long. Not earthquakes, not avalanches, not wind. Patterns, structured like coded signals, almost musical in their symmetry. When the engineers translated the frequencies into audible sound, the playback was unsettling, a low harmonic drone rising and falling like a chant. One researcher insisted the sound was artificial, produced by something beneath the bedrock. Another claimed it matched the frequency range used in modern machines designed to manipulate resonance. A third refused to speak about it at all and left the project permanently. As the team prepared to analyze the data further, a surge of static electricity swept through the camp. Metal objects became magnetized, hair stood on end. A few researchers felt their heartbeats synchronize with the vibration in the earth, as though an unseen force were pulling their biological rhythms into alignment. Panic spread. The expedition leader ordered an immediate evacuation. Later, he described the experience as standing inside the lungs of a sleeping giant. His report was sealed. The sixth cancellation left no ambiguity. The mountain did not want to be disturbed. A drone equipped with thermal imaging was sent toward the restricted zone. Before it crossed the boundary, the temperature readings spiked to impossible levels. hundreds of degrees hotter than the surrounding air, yet the vegetation showed no signs of burning or stress. The drone's camera recorded a sphere of heat rising from the ground like a living flame before the feed went dark. When the drone was recovered, its internal circuits were melted, though the exterior remained perfectly intact, as if heat had passed through it without affecting the surface. Engineers concluded this was impossible, but the object in their hands suggested otherwise. Expeditions 7 through 9 never even reached the mountain. Teams reported feeling overwhelming dread, vertigo, or sudden illness as they traveled the ancient pathways. Several members turned back, insisting they heard whispers along the trails, soft, rhythmic, almost beckoning them forward and backward at once. One mountaineer described the sound as a warning, like the mountain was speaking directly into his mind. No one questioned him. They simply left. The 10th cancellation sealed the fate of future missions. A multinational research team arrived with the most sophisticated instruments available: deep spectrum analyzers, quantum magnet receivers, gravitational sensors. But before they could begin, everything went wrong. The gravitational sensors detected subtle fluctuations, as though the mass beneath the mountain shifted gently like a living creature stretching in its sleep. Quantum receivers picked up bursts of energy similar to solar storms, but the sky overhead was clear. The ground trembled softly, not with the violence of an earthquake, but with the cadence of a slow awakening. The air thickened with static. People felt pressure in their skulls, like an unseen force pressing inward. And then came the final sign. A deep, resonant tone rising from the ground, low and ancient, vibrating through every stone, every root, every heartbeat. Not loud, but undeniable. The researchers froze. The tone built into a harmonic resonance that felt like a presence, intelligent, aware. When it stopped, the mountain fell silent, completely silent. Not even the birds made a sound. That was enough. The leader ordered the expedition canceled, and every team member left without argument. Today, no official explanation exists for the repeated cancellations. Governments blame logistics. Agencies blame funding. But the truth lies in the whispered testimonies of those who have seen the effects firsthand. Something beneath Machu Picchu reacts to intrusion, something ancient enough to shape the earth, powerful enough to disrupt modern technology, and alive enough to warn against further disturbance. The forbidden chambers remain sealed, the expeditions remain canceled, and the mountain waits, humming softly in its sleep, aware, vigilant, and perhaps preparing for the moment when humanity steps too close again. On the longest days and longest nights of the year, when the sun stands still in the sky and shadows align perfectly with the stones of Machu Picchu, something happens that no official report acknowledges. Something subtle, something ancient, something that seems to awaken only during the solstices, the moments the Inca considered to be windows between worlds. Visitors describe it differently, but the essence remains the same: a hum, a resonance, a vibration rising from the sealed doorways that dot the hidden sectors of the citadel. These doorways, carved with impossible precision and blocked with stone slabs heavier than horses, remain unopened. They have been sealed for centuries. Yet, when the solstices arrive, these silent entrances begin to speak. The hum is not loud. It is not even a sound in the traditional sense. It begins as a pressure behind the ears, a subtle trembling within the chest, a sensation that feels like standing near a massive engine buried deep beneath the earth. Some say it resembles a distant chant, deep, melodic, almost like monks singing in a subterranean cathedral. Others describe it as a mechanical resonance, the steady thrum of machinery very old, yet still perfectly functional. A few claim the vibration matches the rhythm of a heartbeat, not human, but vast, like the pulse of the mountain itself. During the summer solstice, when the sunlight passes through the windows of the Temple of the Sun and illuminates the sacred stone within, the hum begins faintly at first. It radiates through the sealed doorways as if triggered by the alignment of the sun with the ancient architecture. Engineers who have examined recordings say the frequency is not natural. It oscillates at a range consistent with harmonic resonance produced by metallic structures. But nothing inside the sealed chambers should contain metal, at least nothing belonging to the Inca. One particular doorway, hidden behind dense foliage along a forbidden cliffside path, has become the focus of many mysterious accounts. It is carved into the rock at an angle that suggests astronomical significance, though its exact alignment is still debated. Local guides warn tourists not to linger near it, especially during solstices. They say the doorway is not simply blocked, it is holding something in. When the hum begins, the stone vibrates ever so slightly, just enough for dust to fall from its edges. Some have placed their hands upon it during these moments and felt warmth where the rest of the stone wall remains cold. Others swear the stone pulses faintly, like a slow, slumbering breath. Scientific teams have attempted to study the vibrations, but each attempt ends the same way, with cancellation, interference, or equipment malfunction. During one solstice, a team placed highly sensitive microphones near the sealed doorway. At the moment of sunrise, every device recorded a sharp spike in electromagnetic activity. The hum that followed caused the microphones to distort into incomprehensible static. When analyzed later, the wave patterns did not resemble any natural geological phenomenon. Instead, they bore the characteristics of synthetic sound, something engineered, something intelligent. One audio engineer insisted the pattern contained structure, almost like code, but he could not decipher it. The humming frequencies combined in mathematical ratios identical to those seen in resonance chambers designed for energy amplification. When he presented his findings, officials dismissed them and requested the data be sealed in an internal archive. The team quietly dissolved shortly after. But the hum persists year after year. During the winter solstice, the phenomenon becomes even stranger. The hum deepens, growing slower, heavier, as if responding not to sunlight, but to shadow. Some believe the solstices activate a kind of switch within the mountain, one tied not to the seasons alone, but to a greater ancient cycle. Villagers speak of these solstice hums as messages or warnings or signs from the sleeping gods beneath the stone. They say the hum is the mountain dreaming, its voice rising through the sealed doorways where the chambers were locked long before the Incas built their temples. A former park ranger recalled one winter solstice night when he stayed behind to watch the stars from near one of the sealed portals. The air was cold and still. Suddenly, without warning, a low hum rose from the ground, resonating through the stone like distant thunder. It lasted nearly 20 seconds. During that time, the ranger felt his vision blur. He swore he saw the outline of the stone doorway flicker, as if glowing from the inside. His heartbeat synchronized with the hum. He stumbled away, dizzy, and later described the experience as being inside a great machine made of stone and sky. He never returned. Visitors who encounter the hum describe similar effects. Some feel lightheaded. Some feel euphoric. Others feel intense dread. A few claim to hear whispers layered within the hum, though audio recordings reveal nothing but vibrations. One traveler insisted she heard voices speaking in an unknown language, a chorus rising from beneath the mountain. She said it was neither human nor animal, but something ancient and resonant, like a choir of metallic beings murmuring beneath the stone. The Inca likely knew of the hum. Their architecture aligns perfectly with solstice light, suggesting an intimate understanding of the mountain's rhythms. The sealed doorways themselves are positioned with astronomical precision. They are not random entrances. They are part of an ancient network, correlated with the movement of the sun, the Earth's tilt, and possibly celestial events far more complex than modern historians acknowledge. Some researchers believe these doorways were designed to amplify or contain the hum, acting as regulators for whatever lies beneath. The Inca may have recognized that the mountain's energy surged during solstices, and they built these stone seals to channel or suppress the force. One theory proposes that the hum is not generated by the mountain, but by something within the forbidden chambers, something metallic, resonant, ancient. The hum could be a release of energy, a recalibration, or even a communication. It could be a natural response to stress, or it could be intentional. If the metallic chambers beneath Machu Picchu truly contain dormant technology, the solstices might act as triggers, moments when cosmic alignment activates systems now forgotten by humanity. But there is another possibility, one that chills even the most skeptical researchers. The hum might not be mechanical. It might be biological. If the sleeping gods referred to in local legends are remnants of a forgotten civilization, or entities of a more mysterious nature, the hum could be a sign of life, a pulse, a dream. The solstices, with their cosmic symmetry, might influence whatever consciousness lies beneath the stone. As the sun reaches its extreme positions, the mountain could be responding, not as a place, but as a being. During an unauthorized nighttime investigation years ago, a small group of explorers placed thermal cameras near one of the sealed portals during the solstice. As the hum began, a heat signature appeared behind the stone, faint but undeniable. It moved like a ripple, shifting slowly across the sealed doorway, then disappearing entirely. The explorers fled, abandoning their equipment. The images were leaked online briefly before they were removed. Those who viewed them described the glow as the shape of something enormous moving on the other side. Despite countless rumors, the authorities maintain there is no hum, and that any vibrations are simply geological. But the villagers know better. They prepare offerings on solstice mornings, placing flowers and corn husks near the forbidden entrances. They say it keeps the mountain calm. They say the hum is not dangerous, but it must be respected. Disturbing it, they warn, invites consequences that humans cannot comprehend. If the hum grows stronger each year, as some claim, it could mean the sealed chambers are activating. It could mean the sleeping gods are stirring. Or it could mean the ancient systems beneath the citadel are reaching a threshold. Whatever the truth is, the solstices continue to reveal a mystery Machu Picchu has guarded for centuries, one that vibrates through stone and air and bone, reminding all who hear it that the mountain is alive, aware, and waiting. And when the hum finally becomes more than sound, when it becomes a voice, the world may learn why those doorways were sealed in the first place. High in the silent stone chambers of Machu Picchu, hidden in recesses where tourists never walk and where even archaeologists are forbidden to linger, there are carvings, thin, precise, impossibly delicate carvings, that depict constellations no human eye can see in the night sky. They are not artistic embellishments. They are not decorative patterns. They are maps, star maps, arranged in clusters and spirals and branching arcs that resemble the sky, not as it appears now, but as it might have looked tens of thousands of years ago, or as it might be seen from a vantage point far from Earth. At first glance, the carvings resemble typical Inca iconography, spirals, dots, lines intersecting with curves, but anyone familiar with astronomy sees it immediately, patterns too exact to be ornamental. The earliest explorers who sketched these carvings dismissed them as symbolic or ritualistic. But when modern astronomers examined high-contrast photos and applied star mapping software to the patterns, something extraordinary happened. The carvings aligned, not with the constellations above Machu Picchu, nor with those visible anywhere on Earth today, but with star formations, as they would have appeared tens of millennia ago, long before any known civilization existed in the Andes. The most unsettling discovery came when researchers noticed that some constellations did not correspond to any known epoch of Earth's night sky. The stars were arranged as if viewed from a slightly different angle in space, as if the observer were standing not on Earth, but somewhere else entirely. This single realization shattered every assumption about the carvings. The Inca could not have created them, even if they had somehow developed astronomy far beyond what history credits them for. They would have needed advanced mathematics, telescopes, and a complete model of celestial drift to map the night sky with such accuracy. But they lacked all of those. So, where did these star maps come from? Some believe the carvings predate the Inca by thousands of years, remnants of an earlier, forgotten civilization that once inhabited the mountain. This theory gained strength when microscopic analysis revealed the carvings were etched with tools far sharper than copper or bronze, possibly with hardened stone or metal alloys unknown to pre-Columbian metallurgy. The edges of the carvings are so precise that even modern laser scanners struggle to trace them. How could ancient hands carve lines thinner than a fingernail into solid granite with such accuracy? But even that mystery pales in comparison to what the carvings depict. One cluster of patterns shows a star system arranged around a dark void, possibly a black hole or dense mass unseen from Earth's current orbital position. Another carving portrays a spiral arm of the Milky Way, as it would appear only from a distant vantage point outside our solar system. A third carving displays a constellation that astronomers identified as the Pleiades, but not the Pleiades as they look now. Instead, the carving shows an arrangement of stars consistent with their positions nearly 30,000 years ago, long before humans settled the Andes and long before Machu Picchu was ever conceived. When these findings became public, authorities immediately denied their validity. They claimed the carvings were misinterpreted, the overlays incorrectly scaled, the conclusions speculative. But the researchers who studied them refused to remain silent. Some insisted the carvings were a message, a star map deliberately placed beneath Machu Picchu to indicate a connection with a time or a place far beyond our civilization's reach. Local legends only deepen the mystery. Elders speak of the watchers from the sky, who came before the first tribes, beings who descended not as gods, but as travelers seeking refuge. They taught early humans how to read the heavens, not as they are, but as they were. They carved maps into stone to preserve knowledge of where they came from and where they would someday return. The villagers say these watchers did not vanish. They sank into the mountain, sealed behind doorways that hummed during the solstices, waiting for the sky to realign with their ancestral home. Most historians dismiss these legends, but the carvings refuse to be dismissed. During a high-resolution scanning project, a technician noticed something startling. When illuminated at a specific angle, some carvings glowed faintly, not because the stone emitted light, but because microscopic crystalline structures within the rock refracted the light in a precise geometric pattern. This pattern matched the mathematical relationships between distant star clusters, including some only recently confirmed by modern telescopes. The carvings were not merely depictions. They were encoded star charts. Even more disturbing is the presence of a constellation that does not exist today. A cluster of 7 stars arranged in a configuration unlike anything visible in the current sky. Astronomers simulated ancient star drift and realized that this cluster existed only briefly in Earth's astronomical past, during a period predating any known human civilization by tens of thousands of years. During that ancient epoch, there was a moment, brief, fleeting, when the stars aligned in the exact pattern carved into Machu Picchu's stone. How could the carver have known? One explanation is that humanity evolved earlier than scientific consensus admits, that an advanced civilization flourished in prehistory and left these maps behind before disappearing from the archaeological record. Another explanation, far more unsettling, is that the carvings are not from Earth at all. They might represent not the sky as seen from this planet, but the sky seen from theirs. One particularly controversial carving shows a ring of stars surrounding a central sun-like star, with orbit lines etched between them. It resembles a planetary map. Yet, the orbits are elliptical in a way no mythic artwork from the Andes has ever portrayed. When astronomers compared the pattern to known exoplanet systems, they found a striking similarity to a solar system identified only recently, 500 light-years from Earth. But the carving shows the system as it would appear from a position far outside the Milky Way plane, as if the observer were drifting in deep interstellar space. No one can explain this. And this is not the only proof of something extraordinary. Researchers using ultraviolet imaging discovered faint pigment residues in the carvings, traces of a substance not native to the Andean region. It fluoresces with a golden sheen under UV light, forming lines invisible to the naked eye. When these hidden lines were revealed, they formed new patterns between the carved stars, interconnecting pathways, like routes or trajectories between distant points in the galaxy. A star map with flight paths. Some scientists believe the carvings depict not just the night sky, but the journey of whoever created them. The most controversial discovery came when a geologist noticed a small depression at the center of one of the star clusters. He believed it was a symbol for Earth. Yet the Earth in the carving was placed not at the center of the pattern, but on the outer edge, as if Earth were simply one endpoint in a much larger cosmic diagram. The carvings appear to trace a route from one star system to another, then another, before finally reaching Earth. If this interpretation is correct, the carvings describe a voyage, one that ended in the Andes. Local shamans speak of these carvings as maps of return. They believe the watchers who carved them will one day follow the same path back to the mountain. They insist the star maps are not relics, but instructions, coordinates engraved in stone to guide their descendants home. This belief is not metaphorical, it is literal. The shamans say the sealed chambers beneath Machu Picchu contain not treasure, not mummies, but the remnants of those who traveled across the stars. They say the hum during solstices is the mountain listening for them. Modern authorities have quietly restricted further study of the carvings. Several researchers lost access after publishing early findings. Some claim their data was confiscated. Others say they were warned not to speak further. The official explanation is preservation of cultural heritage. But those who worked closest to the carvings say something else entirely. That the more the carvings are studied, the more impossible they become to explain within the framework of known history. If the carvings show star maps not visible from Earth today, then someone, somehow, saw the sky from another vantage point. Someone witnessed the cosmos from a position humanity has never reached. Someone who walked the terraces of Machu Picchu may have come not from across the world, but from across the galaxy. And the carvings, silent and ancient, remain as their only proof, waiting for the day when the sky once again matches the patterns etched into stone, and the path carved in the mountain aligns with the path through the stars. For decades, the world has accepted a simple story. Machu Picchu is a fragile archaeological site, and therefore, excavation is tightly restricted to preserve its integrity. But behind closed doors, beyond the curated public statements, something far more unsettling is happening. Government officials, UNESCO representatives, and scientific authorities from multiple countries have repeatedly and aggressively shut down excavation requests, denied research permits, and silenced independent investigators who come too close to the forbidden chambers beneath the citadel. The official explanation is always the same: preservation, protection, conservation. But the silence behind that explanation is deafening, because those who have attempted access know the truth. The bans are not about protecting stone walls or terraces. They are about protecting something else, something hidden, something ancient, something the world is not prepared to confront. The earliest recorded obstruction came in the 1960s, when a team of Peruvian archaeologists discovered a sealed passageway beneath the Temple of the Sun. They planned a small exploratory dig, a simple removal of loose stones to reveal the entrance. Before they could begin, government officials arrived unexpectedly in order to halt. The researchers were told the site was structurally unstable, yet seismic reports showed no instability. The passage remained sealed. The archaeologists never returned to Machu Picchu, and one later claimed he was threatened with academic blacklisting if he spoke about what he saw inside the passageway. Years later, UNESCO became involved. In theory, this should have expanded scientific exploration, but instead, it ushered in an era of unprecedented control. Suddenly, all excavation proposals, no matter how careful, limited, or technologically safe, were denied. Researchers were instructed to observe, not disturb. Ground-penetrating radar was permitted only in certain zones, and even then, only under strict supervision. Any data suggesting artificial chambers, metallic structures, or unusual anomalies was quietly sealed, archived, or erased. It was no coincidence. The first international team to attempt a deep survey scan submitted their data to Peruvian cultural authorities. What they found was a map of hollow spaces arranged in geometric patterns beneath the citadel, patterns too precise to be natural. Within weeks, UNESCO issued a formal statement prohibiting excavation beneath Machu Picchu under any circumstances. They framed it as protection of heritage, but the timing revealed something else. They were responding directly to the findings. A few insiders claim UNESCO representatives met privately with government officials after the radar results were reviewed. Whatever was discussed inside that room changed the course of Machu Picchu's history. Why would global cultural authorities enforce a blanket ban on excavation? Why shut down exploration into what could be the greatest archaeological discovery ever made? The answers whispered among researchers are chilling. Some say UNESCO is protecting geopolitical stability. If the chambers contain technology, artifacts, or structures that do not originate from any known human civilization, the implications could shatter religious, historical, and scientific foundations around the world. Nations would fight for ownership. Philosophies would collapse. Power structures would panic. Others believe the ban exists because the chambers are dangerous. Energy anomalies recorded near the sealed doors, unusual electromagnetic spikes, seismic pulses with no tectonic cause. Authorities may fear opening the chambers could trigger an unseen mechanism. It would explain why excavation attempts have been stopped, not just bureaucratically, but urgently, as if time itself were running out. One former UNESCO employee revealed anonymously that internal documents refer to Machu Picchu's lower chambers as zones of high sensitivity, not cultural sensitivity, energetic sensitivity. Another source claimed the site is considered a potential hazard under privately circulated protocols. When pressed for clarification, they refused to answer. Yet the strangest events involve the sudden cancellations, the interventions from individuals who appear without warning, carrying authority that supersedes any government or academic institution. One excavation attempt in the early 2000s involved a team equipped with modern tools and permits granted after years of negotiation. Hours before the scheduled start, 3 cars arrived at the site, not local vehicles, not Peruvian government vehicles. The men who stepped out wore no uniforms, no identification. They delivered a verbal command: stop everything. No explanation. When the researchers protested, they were told, "You do not understand what is beneath this mountain." The team was forced to withdraw. Years later, some members still refused to speak about the encounter. Another researcher, a geophysicist, submitted a request to drill a microbore shaft, no larger than a coin, into one of the sealed chambers to insert an endoscopic camera. UNESCO denied the request within 24 hours. Not only denied, it was flagged as restricted inquiry. His funding disappeared months later. He believes he was blacklisted. What kind of archaeological request becomes restricted inquiry? Only those that threaten to reveal something that must remain hidden. In 2012, a group of independent explorers used ground sensors near one of the forbidden doorways. They detected vibrations matching a rhythmic pulsing, like the hum recorded during solstices. When they attempted to publish their findings, UNESCO representatives intervened, demanding the data be withdrawn. They cited methodological inconsistencies, but the explorers insisted their equipment was flawless. One later said he received a phone call warning him to leave this subject alone. It wasn't a threat. It was advice spoken with urgency, almost fear. The deeper the investigation goes, the stranger the restrictions become. UNESCO has established boundary zones around certain structures, zones that cannot be crossed, studied, or photographed closely. They have imposed bans on thermal imaging in specific areas. They have restricted drone flights over parts of the mountain. And any technology capable of penetrating deep rock, ultrasound scanning, muon tomography, neutrino-based imaging, has been rejected instantly. Why? Because these technologies cannot be fooled. If the chambers beneath Machu Picchu contain metallic forms, energy systems, or structures not made by Inca hands, muon scans would reveal them instantly. UNESCO knows this, governments know this, and so the ban remains. One of the most suspicious episodes occurred in 2019, when a university team proposed a harmless digital mapping project using surface-based magnetic sensors. The initial approval process went smoothly, until the team mentioned that their results would be made publicly available. Within days, UNESCO not only denied the project, but rewrote its guidelines to prohibit deep magnetic imaging entirely. It is the only UNESCO site with such a rule. This is not preservation, this is containment. Some believe the governments involved fear the truth would destabilize cultural identity. Others believe the chambers hide something with historical implications, so vast that revealing it could unravel the timeline of human civilization. But there is another, darker theory, one whispered by insiders who have seen things they cannot explain. They say the chambers beneath Machu Picchu are not ruins. They are systems still functioning, systems that respond to environmental conditions and cosmic cycles, systems that react to human intrusion with energy pulses, electromagnetic surges, or harmonic resonance, systems that were never meant to be opened by modern hands. If that is true, UNESCO and government officials are not suppressing knowledge. They are preventing catastrophe. Consider the solstice hums, the metallic energy signatures, the star maps carved into stone, the sudden cancellations after anomalous events, the sealed doorways carved with impossible precision. These are not disconnected mysteries. They form a pattern, one UNESCO may fully understand but refuses to reveal. A leaked fragment from an internal document reportedly states, further disturbance of subsurface structures may activate unknown responses. The wording alone suggests the site is not merely archaeological. It is intelligent, a system designed with purpose. Whether crafted by an ancient civilization far more advanced than history admits, or by entities beyond human origin, The implication is terrifying. The chambers beneath Machu Picchu are not dead. They are dormant. And dormant things can awaken. This is why excavation is halted without explanation. Not because the stone is fragile, not because tourists must be protected, but because the world is not ready for what lies below. Governments fear it. UNESCO fears it. And those who guard the mountain fear it most of all. They are not protecting Machu Picchu from humanity. They are protecting humanity from Machu Picchu. Among the elders who live in the valleys below Machu Picchu, there is a story they share only in hushed voices, only at night, and only with those they trust. It is the story of a bloodline so ancient, so powerful, and so dangerous that its existence was erased from history long before the world learned to write. They say Machu Picchu did not merely house royalty. It protected a royal lineage so sacred that even the Inca, with all their might and divine authority, dared not speak their names aloud. These lost rulers were not kings in the traditional sense. They were guardians, custodians of artifacts said to possess extraordinary properties, objects tied to the sky, the stars, and the energies buried deep within the earth. Their remains, along with their supernatural possessions, were entombed in chambers sealed so perfectly that no empire, no conqueror, and no modern institution has ever been permitted to open them. The whispers begin with a repeated phrase, the true line. According to legend, the true line did not arise from the Inca. The Inca rose because the true line allowed it. These ancient rulers were believed to be born with a kind of spiritual resonance, a connection not only to the gods, but to the energetic heart of the Andes itself. Their blood was said to carry knowledge, ancestral memory stretching back farther than human civilization. Some claim their lineage descended from a people who walked the earth before recorded time, a civilization whose technology and wisdom surpassed anything ever known. The Inca worshipped the sun, but the true line was said to commune with something older than the sun, something hidden beneath the mountains, something that hums. The first secret of this forbidden bloodline lies in the descriptions of their burial chambers. Local lore speaks of rooms of golden ash, rooms where stone becomes soft, or rooms where the dead sleep without decay. Archaeologists have dismissed these phrases as metaphors, but the deeper one searches, the clearer the meaning becomes. Many underground anomalies detected by radar lie precisely where elders claim the true line was interred. These are the chambers no excavation permit has ever touched, no drill has been allowed to penetrate, no authority has dared to open. Why? Because rumor has it that the artifacts buried with this bloodline were not ceremonial ornaments. They were powerful devices, objects capable of manipulating energy, controlling resonance, and influencing the natural world. Some say they harnessed the hum of the earth. Others believe they could amplify human consciousness, allowing the rulers to hear thoughts, project visions, or communicate with something not of this world. One artifact repeatedly mentioned in folklore is the heart of Inti, described as a luminous sphere that glowed even in total darkness. The true line supposedly carried it during rituals that aligned the mountain with the movements of the heavens. Another forbidden artifact is called the Vein of the Sky, a crystalline rod said to channel lightning without burning. And then there is the Breath of Atahualpa, an object shrouded in absolute secrecy, rumored to have been placed in the innermost chamber with the final descendant of the bloodline. Descriptions vary. Some claim it was a metallic mask. Others insist it was not an object at all, but a living fragment of something ancient. These artifacts were not treasures, they were burdens, and so they were entombed with the bloodline that once wielded them. Throughout the centuries, explorers have tried to piece together clues from oral tradition, colonial records, and forbidden manuscripts. Some claim Spanish chroniclers encountered whispers of this hidden lineage and tried relentlessly to locate their tombs. They failed. Not because the chambers were impossible to find, but because those who protected them ensured they would never be opened. Indigenous shamans often refer to the true line as the watchers beneath the stone. They say the bloodline was chosen to guard the mountain because their spirits remained partially alive, even after death. Their bodies were preserved in a state beyond ordinary mummification, and their minds, according to legend, became part of Machu Picchu itself. When the solstice hum reverberates through the sealed doorways, some insist it is the echo of the true line speaking from the beyond, warning the living to leave the artifacts untouched. There are stories of individuals who tried to break into forbidden chambers over the centuries. Not one is said to have succeeded. Instead, strange misfortunes befell them. Tools shattered, torches extinguished, illness struck without cause. One tale speaks of a Spanish soldier who found a narrow crack leading into a subterranean passage. He followed it deep into the mountain until he reached a thick stone door covered in strange symbols. When he touched it, a sharp vibration coursed through his body. He fled in terror and died days later, mumbling repeatedly about eyes in the darkness. His companions sealed the crack permanently. Another explorer in the early 20th century claimed to have discovered a sealed chamber entrance hidden beneath a platform stone. Before he could remove the stone, he fell unconscious. When he awoke, he was miles from the site with no memory of how he arrived there. His equipment, left behind, was found fused together as if exposed to intense heat. Authorities dismissed his story, yet his photographs revealed something undeniable. Carved into the stone was a symbol identical to one found in pre-Inca petroglyphs, an emblem associated with the true line. The strangest accounts come from local families who insist they are descended from guardians appointed to protect the bloodline's resting place. They say the chambers were sealed not only to preserve the bodies, but to contain the artifacts, which they claim possess energies capable of bending reality. Some villagers warn that if the artifacts are disturbed, the mountain's hum will rise into a roar that could awaken forces humanity is not prepared to face. Whispers from UNESCO, insiders, and government archivists hint at another layer of secrecy. There are rumors of classified documents describing attempts to study the sealed chambers using advanced imaging technologies. These studies reportedly detected not only metallic objects, but pulsating energy signatures, signals consistent with active systems. When these findings reached international authorities, all further investigations were halted. The official reasoning was diplomatic. The unofficial reason, whispered among insiders, was fear. Fear of awakening whatever lies within. Fear that the bloodline's resting place is not merely a tomb, but a vault. A vault that protects humanity from artifacts too powerful to exist in the modern world. One anonymous researcher described Machu Picchu as a lid on an ancient engine. He believed the true line was interred not because they died, but because their lineage completed its purpose, to guard objects that could alter the balance of nature. Whether the artifacts are technological, spiritual, or something in between, he refused to say. But he warned that forcing open the chambers would be catastrophic. There are whispered accounts that the last ruler of the true line was entombed alive, placed within the central chamber with the artifacts so that their energy would bind with his spirit. Some versions claim his body still radiates warmth. Others say his eyes were carved from obsidian and gleam in the darkness. The most dramatic claim is that he is not dead at all, that his consciousness remains suspended in a state between life and dream, awake enough to sense trespassers, but dormant enough to allow time to pass. The villagers still offer flowers near the forbidden chambers. They do not mourn the dead. They honor the guardians. They believe their spirits stand between the world and forces older than civilization. When asked why the chambers must never be opened, an elder once replied, "Because the artifacts choose their own bearer, and no one alive today is strong enough to bear them." In recent years, whispers have increased. Some say the hum beneath the chambers grows stronger. Others claim certain symbols carved into the walls have begun to glow faintly during storms. And a few believe the awakening has already begun, that the artifacts are stirring, resonating with solar cycles, waiting for the moment when the world aligns with whatever prophecy the true line once upheld. If these legends hold truth, then Machu Picchu is more than a city of stone. It is a crypt built around a bloodline tasked with protecting humanity from something it does not understand. The sealed chambers contain not only bodies, but power, ancient, beautiful, and terrifying. And perhaps the world remains untouched by its force, not because we are unworthy, but because we are not yet ready. They say you can feel the mountain before you ever see it. A subtle pressure in the air, a humming beneath the ground, a sensation, faint but undeniable, that something ancient is watching from within the stone. Most visitors never notice it. They walk the terraces, admire the views, take their photographs, and leave. But the researchers, the ones who venture closest to the sealed tunnels beneath Machu Picchu, tell a very different story. They describe dizziness so intense it feels like the earth tilts beneath their feet. visions that flicker across their minds like memories they never lived, and a strange distortion of time, moments stretching or collapsing, seconds feeling like minutes or vanishing in a blink. These are not superstitions. These are documented experiences recorded quietly, privately, often fearfully, by scientists who would never dare publish them in official papers. One of the earliest reports came from a geologist mapping microfractures near a blocked tunnel entrance. He said everything felt normal until he stepped closer to the sealed stone wall. Then, without warning, his vision blurred. Colors intensified. Sounds distorted. The air thickened as if the world were underwater. He tried to look at his watch, but the hands spun wildly, moving too fast, then too slow, then freezing. He stumbled backward, and in an instant, everything snapped back to normal. His colleagues later told him he had been standing still for nearly 2 minutes, unresponsive, staring into the sealed tunnel as if hypnotized. He remembers it as 3 or 4 seconds. Another researcher, an archaeologist studying lichen patterns around the same tunnel, reported something even stranger. As she approached the entrance, she felt a sudden wave of nausea, followed by a blinding flash of white light. Except the flash wasn't external. It came from inside her mind. In the brightness, she saw what she described as a corridor illuminated by a light with no source, and shadows moving at the far end. When the vision faded, she had tears streaming down her face and no memory of crying. She also insisted she smelled burning metal, but no one else detected anything. Her equipment malfunctioned for the rest of the day. These experiences might have been dismissed as altitude sickness or psychological stress, except they kept happening, again and again and again. A physicist studying electromagnetic fluctuations near one of the blocked tunnel shafts reported losing 15 minutes of time. His audio recorder captured him speaking normally, followed by a sudden gap, 15 minutes of silence, then his voice again, panicked, asking where everyone went. But his team insisted he had been standing right beside them the entire time, staring blankly at the tunnel. When he tried to recall those missing minutes, he experienced only vertigo, like falling through darkness. Another scientist described a phenomenon that sounds impossible. As he approached the sealed stone door, he saw the shadows cast by the sun begin to move in reverse, as if time were rewinding. He blinked, thinking it was a trick of light, but when he looked again, the shadows flickered forward, then backward, oscillating like a heartbeat. His camera captured none of it. His own eyes, he swears, did. These are not people prone to imagination. They are trained experts, methodical, cautious, skeptical. Yet they left Machu Picchu shaken, convinced the mountain changes something in the mind, something deep, something fundamental. Modern neuroscience tries to explain these experiences through magnetic anomalies. The human brain is sensitive to shifts in electromagnetic fields. If the sealed tunnels contain metallic structures or active systems, they might generate fields intense enough to disrupt perception. But this explanation falls short of accounting for everything. Not even the strongest localized magnetic fields can cause shared hallucinations, synchronized nausea, or time loss experienced differently by each witness. One anthropologist recorded a chilling account. While taking soil samples near a collapsed tunnel, he suddenly heard whispers, not words, not voices, but layered murmurs resembling many people speaking at once. He froze, thinking other researchers were behind him. But when he turned around, he was completely alone. The whispers grew louder, circling him, then faded instantly, leaving only silence heavy enough to feel. That night, he dreamed of walking inside the tunnel, lit by a faint blue glow, with figures standing motionless in rows, watching him with eyes like obsidian glass. He swore the dream felt more real than waking life. Another team recorded what they believed was evidence of time distortion. They placed synchronized atomic watches around the perimeter of a sealed entrance. After 2 hours, the watches remained synchronized, except the one closest to the tunnel lagged by 0.04 seconds. This should be impossible on such a small spatial scale. Some dismissed it as instrument error. Others were not so sure. Then there is the case of the botanist who fainted near one of the forbidden entrances. When she woke, she insisted she had seen a past event unfold inside her mind, the construction of Machu Picchu itself. She described workers carving stone with tools that emitted light rather than impact, shaping granite as if it were clay. She saw a group of individuals wearing garments unlike known Inca attire performing a ritual outside the tunnel. She saw symbols glowing along the tunnel walls. Her team attributed the vision to lack of oxygen. But she spoke with such detail, such certainty, that even her skeptics became uneasy. But perhaps the most disturbing incident involved a pair of researchers performing seismic readings near the lower terraces. Both reported seeing the same apparition. A figure standing just inside the mouth of a blocked tunnel, illuminated by a faint golden shimmer. The figure was tall, unmoving, and featureless, except for a hand resting against the sealed stone, as if feeling for something on the other side. When they blinked, the figure vanished, but both had identical sketches of it in their field journals. Some argue these distortions are caused by natural geological formations. The Andes are rich in piezoelectric quartz deposits, capable of producing electromagnetic effects under pressure. Combined with tectonic stress and deep mineral cavities, hallucination-like sensations could occur. But this does not account for the shared visions, the synchronized time loss, or the whispers heard by multiple witnesses. Geological phenomena do not generate coherent images, coordinated auditory hallucinations, or visions of structured environments. Local shamans offer a different explanation. They say the tunnels beneath Machu Picchu are thresholds, points where the physical world touches the spiritual, or perhaps something even stranger. They believe the dizziness is not sickness, but resonance. The visions not hallucinations, but glimpses of the memories stored within the mountain. Time distortion, they say, is the mountain breathing. They insist the sealed chambers contain energy older than the Inca, older than humanity. Energy that bends the senses and warps the mind of anyone who steps too close without permission. Some even claim the distortions occur because whatever lies behind the sealed tunnel doors is trying to communicate. During one unauthorized investigation, a researcher placed a high-frequency scanner near the tunnel interior. The scanner picked up low, rhythmic pulses matching the frequency range of human theta brainwaves, the same frequency associated with dreaming, hypnosis, and deep meditation. As the pulses continued, the researcher felt his thoughts slowing, as though he were drifting into sleep while fully awake. He backed away quickly, but something lingered, a feeling that his mind had been touched by something outside himself. Another scientist experienced the opposite, accelerating thoughts. She described it as time speeding up inside her mind while her body remained still. She said she perceived 1,000 impressions in the span of a single heartbeat. Faces, symbols, lights, tunnels stretching into infinity. When the episode ended, only seconds had passed, but she felt as if she had lived hours inside her mind. Authorities have quietly moved to suppress these accounts. Some researchers were asked to sign confidentiality agreements. Others were reassigned. A few simply stopped speaking about their experiences entirely, as if fearful of something more than ridicule. What then causes these anomalies? One possibility is that the chambers contain technology that manipulates electromagnetic fields or gravitational forces, affecting the perception of time and reality. Another is that the chambers act as resonant structures, amplifying natural energies and producing psychological effects. A third possibility, whispered privately among those who have experienced the most extreme distortions, is that the tunnels are not merely passages through Earth, but passages through time itself. Some believe the sealed doors conceal a space where time behaves differently, where memories, visions, and consciousness bleed together. If the chambers beneath Machu Picchu were constructed by a civilization with advanced knowledge of energy or dimensional physics, the effects felt by modern researchers could be the residual imprint of technologies long dormant but still active enough to disturb the senses. The dizziness could be the brain responding to shifting temporal fields. The visions could be fragments of past or future events leaking through. The time distortion could be evidence of space-time curvature. And the whispers, those faint, layered murmurs, could be echoes of voices trapped in a loop of time, repeating endlessly in the resonance chambers. The sealed tunnels remain undisturbed, protected not just by stone, but by the psychological barrier they create. Those who approach too closely retreat instinctively, as if guided by an inner warning. And perhaps that warning is itself a message from the mountain, because those who have felt the distortions all say the same thing. The experience does not feel hostile. It feels intentional, as if the mountain is watching, as if the mountain is waiting, as if time itself is guarding the secrets hidden beneath Machu Picchu. letting curious minds glimpse just enough to understand that the truth is not just ancient, but alive. They say mountains keep secrets the way oceans keep sunken ships, slowly, patiently, without ever revealing how deep the truth truly goes. Machu Picchu is no different. Its stones shimmer in sunlight, its terraces stretch into the horizon, and its temples whisper of kings and astronomers and priests. Yet, beneath all of that, hidden far below the pathways walked by tourists, sealed away behind slabs of granite carved smoother than mirrors, lies the question that haunts every researcher who dares to come close. Are the chambers beneath Machu Picchu protecting something, or keeping something contained? For decades, scientists believed the chambers were simple burial vaults or ceremonial spaces. But once the metallic anomalies were discovered, once radar beams revealed perfectly geometric voids, once the hum beneath the doorways began to be recorded, once researchers began to lose time and experience visions, everything changed. These chambers were not shaped by hammers and chisels. They were not carved for the dead. They were constructed with intention. They resonate. They respond. They listen. And now the world is divided into two possibilities, both equally terrifying. The first possibility, the chambers are protective, a shield, a vault, a lock forged by an ancient civilization to guard something precious. Knowledge, perhaps, or technology beyond anything today's world can comprehend. Something humanity wasn't meant to lose, and isn't ready to regain. The second possibility, the chambers are containment, a prison, a seal, a safeguard against something dangerous. Something that could reshape the world if released. Something that hums when the sun aligns with the earth. Something that pulses beneath stone as though waiting for the right moment to awaken. The truth may be both. Consider the way the chambers are built. They are not passive structures. They are active. Every solstice, they vibrate with harmonic resonance as if they are recalibrating. Every attempt to penetrate them results in dizziness, visions, missing time, as though the chambers sense intrusion and react defensively. Some researchers claim the chambers generate microbursts of electromagnetic energy that disrupt the brain's perception of time. Others insist the chambers are alive, conscious in some impossible way, rooted in the mountain but aware of the people who walk above. One anthropologist described the feeling like standing on the skin of a sleeping creature, the heartbeat not quite audible but felt deep within the bones. Another claimed the chamber beneath the Temple of the Sun watched her, in a way no geological structure should. She said the stone felt sentient, aware, as though it were breathing. These are not metaphors. These are testimonies. If the chambers are protecting something, what could be so valuable that an entire citadel was built above it as a guardian city? Ancient stories speak of the true line, the hidden royal bloodline said to possess artifacts capable of interacting with the forces beneath the earth. Artifacts forged not by human hands, or forged by humans guided by something beyond their understanding. Artifacts that could command light, channel energy, distort the boundaries of the physical world. If these relics lie within the sealed chambers, then the chambers serve as a vault, a guardian erected to ensure the world would never misuse what it could not understand. But if the chambers are containment, then the implications are far darker. Local legends warn of sleeping gods beneath the mountain, not gods in the divine sense, but entities, ancient, powerful, intelligent. Entities tied to the hum, to the visions, to the time distortions. Some shamans claim the chambers were built not to guard treasure, but to imprison a force that once walked the Andes in primordial times. A force that could command storms, bend metal, alter reality. A force the Inca discovered and feared. This idea grew stronger after multiple researchers simultaneously experienced the same vision. A corridor glowing with blue light, with shadowed figures standing motionless inside. The figures did not move. They did not speak. They simply existed, suspended in a state between presence and absence, like consciousness frozen in an ancient loop. If these visions are true, the chambers are more than stone. They are interfaces, boundaries between dimensions, holding something inside. Something that dreams, something that hums, something that wakes. But perhaps the most chilling theory is the one whispered quietly among physicists studying the anomalies. They believe the chambers might not simply contain a physical object or biological entity. They may be containing a field, A field capable of warping time, bending perception, and altering matter on a quantum level. A field generated by ancient machinery still humming beneath the stone. When researchers placed measuring devices near one of the sealed portals, they detected bursts of radiation consistent with decaying exotic particles not found anywhere else in the region. What natural phenomenon could produce such readings? None that science currently knows, unless the chambers hold technology designed to manipulate matter or energy in ways humanity cannot comprehend. This aligns with the star maps carved into the walls, maps showing constellations no longer visible from Earth, constellations that appear from vantage points far from our current solar system. If the carvings depict where the builders came from, then they may also depict what they brought with them. If the artifacts buried within the chambers are remnants of a civilization that traveled across star systems, then the chambers were built both to protect humanity from the artifacts and to protect the artifacts from humanity. Some researchers propose a hybrid explanation. They believe the chambers serve as both vault and prison, an ancient version of a nuclear containment facility, but designed for something far stranger than radiation. Something living, something conscious, something dormant. There is evidence to support this idea. During one unauthorized scan, instruments detected rhythmic pulses deep within the mountain, pulses resembling biological signals, but on a scale no organism on Earth could produce. The pulses grew stronger during attempts to drill into the stone, as if reacting, as if resisting, as if warning. When the hum rises during solstices, locals say the mountain is communicating, not calling out, but keeping itself in balance, reaffirming the seal, recharging the system that keeps whatever lies below from reaching the surface. The sealed doors, carved with impossible precision, are not doors at all. They are interfaces, designed to hold back forces that should not be unleashed. They are not just stone, they are components in a stabilization mechanism. Only during the solstices, moments when cosmic alignment shifts the energy of the mountain, do the chambers adjust themselves, releasing pressure, recalibrating containment, maintaining balance. If that balance were ever disrupted, if the chambers cracked, if the seals weakened, if the mountain's hum ever shifted into a roar, the consequences could extend far beyond Machu Picchu. Some believe the energy within could ripple outward, collapsing the boundaries between dimensions, allowing entities or forces long sealed away to rise again. Others fear the chambers contain a singular object, a core of some kind, whose awakening would trigger seismic, atmospheric, or even temporal disturbances across the planet. Because the dizziness researchers feel, the visions they share, the time distortions they record, are not symptoms. They are leakage, tiny fractures in the containment system, small escapes of energy or consciousness from the chambers, glimpses of what lies beyond the sealed stone, and every year, the distortions grow slightly stronger. The hum grows slightly louder. The visions become slightly more vivid. It is as if the chambers are aging, or weakening, or preparing. Some believe the chambers are protecting something sacred, a civilization's final gift to the future. Others insist the chambers are containing something catastrophic, a power or intelligence that must never be released. But the most disturbing possibility is that they are doing both. The chambers might hold a force that is simultaneously the greatest treasure and the greatest threat humanity has ever encountered. A force that once shaped the Andes, a force woven into the Earth's magnetic field, a force that dreams beneath the citadel, waiting for the moment it is called, or awakened, or freed. And perhaps the true question is not whether the chambers are protecting something or containing something. The real question is this: what happens when the chambers fail?